Hi, it's Mo. It is May 22nd, and I keep seeing, well, I've seen 2 videos on The Guardian's top 100 novels, 100 greatest novels, whatever the article is called. The byline says, the greatest literature ever published in English as voted for by authors, critics, and academics worldwide. How many have you read? It just lists the name of the books, but if you hover over them, you can see the title of the book and the cover of the book. If you click on it, you can see something that's said about the book, and you can say whether you've read it or not. I saw Aaron read a book, or Aaron read a book, do a video on this, which was really fun. He grouped them in groups of 10. I'm going to group them in groups of 20 just to get through them a little faster. And then I saw Aaron Facer do a reaction video to that, so I wanted to do a video talking about what books I'd read, what books are on my TBR, what books I will not be reading off this list, and if there are any books that I think should have been added to this list. Number 100 to number 80, so 21 books to start. My Antonia by Willa Cather. I have a read, own, want to read. My Antonia, I own. I've read 2, I think, Willa Cathers, and I really enjoyed them. One I really loved, and one I thought was good. I definitely want to read My Antonia. This is obviously her most well-known work. This is also a American work talking about America, and I think it's interesting because this list is going to be obviously very much Western focused. It's going to have a lot of Western books on it, but it's just books published in English, so it can be translated works as well, and there are a few translated works on here. But I think right off the bat, these are also going to be very popular novels, not necessarily the best novel by that author per se, or not my favorite, definitely not. I'll also do an interested to see if there are books that I would like to read. 99, The Go-Between is by J.P. Hartley. I have no idea what that is. The Road by Cormac McCarthy I own, but I have not read. I'm not super interested in this. The copy that we own is my husband's. Catch-22 we own, but again, I would read this because it's a classic, but it's also a war book, and I just don't know if I really want to read it, but we'll say I own it. Pedro Paramore, I do own, and I am interested in. I hadn't realized this before, but while I was watching Aaron Facer's video, he said that this was inspiration for Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which I know is on this list later. I have looked at this list when I was watching those 2 videos, kind of sort of counted, but not in any real way, just to see, so I don't remember even what the count was. I have an idea of what's on this list already, although I would have had an idea what was on this list no matter what. Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. I don't know. I guess I'm interested in it. The Known World by Edward P. Jones is 94 if we're counting. And then we get to the first book that I have read, which is Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. So this is not really a novel. What does the top say? It says the greatest literature ever published. So okay, so it doesn't say it has to be a novel. It just says it has to be literature. I would not put this in my top 100, I don't think. I really love Invisible Cities, but I don't think it's why is it there? I think there's other books. What's the thesis of this whole thing? If you are saying this is just the greatest literature, just the greatest books ever written, that's such a wide topic, because greatest is your own opinion, right? Greatest is individual to every person. But if you're saying the most influential books ever written, I still don't think Invisible Cities would be on there. So I think that these lists are often a little too nebulous for me, and obviously a little too Western. I'm going to be coming at it from a Western lens as well, because I have read the most Western books, but I do think that if you're talking to well-read people and well-rounded critics, you wouldn't have so many Western books, ideally. Number 92 is Sentimental Education. This is by Flaubert. This is probably one that I won't read. Books that I've read, obviously, are books that I've read. Books on my TBR are obviously books that I want to read and I have acquired. Books that I'm not interested in are going to be books that I have an opportunity to read, but I don't want to read. And then books that I'm interested in are ones that sound interesting to me. So things like The Go-Between Go-Between. The Go-Between kind of sounds interesting to me, whereas The Known World, although it sounds like an interesting book, is just middle of the road. It doesn't mean I'll never read it. It doesn't mean I'll definitely read it. It doesn't mean that I'm super interested in it. It doesn't mean that I'm super uninterested in it. But Sentimental Education and most of those long, not that I know that that one's long, but classics are going to be ones that I'm not probably going to be interested in. Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman is number 91. I've never heard of that. I don't know what that is. Jacob's Room is number 90. This is Virginia Woolf. I read my first Virginia Woolf, which I know is going to be on this list this year, and I thought it was interesting. So I'm always interested in things like that, but I'm not going to put it on my interested list. There are a lot of Virginia Woolfs on here, I think, and I don't know why. Obviously, she's a great writer. Obviously, critics and writers love her, but like, there's so many, and those slots could have been taken by other people. I think they should have limited the amount each author could be on the list to make room for other authors. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin I own, and I'm interested in reading at some point. Number 88 is E.L. Doctorow's Ragtime. I think that's like a New York story, but I haven't read it, and I'm not like hugely interested in it. The Line of Beauty by Hollinghost is number 87. I am interested in that. I'm interested in that author in general. I do have several of his books. The Turn of the Shrew, I definitely would like to read at some point. And actually, I do think I have this one. I'm not positive. I might have this. Number 85 is another book that I have read. It is The Vegetarian by Hank Kang. Again, I don't think I would have put this on this list. I don't want to say I like this book because this is not a super likable book, but I think that this book is a weird choice out of all the Korean literature that you could have chosen to put on this list, South Korean literature, because it says something about Korea and Korea politics and South Korean life, but I think probably other works by Hank Kang are more about Korean life. I think you could have put Kim Ji-young, born 1989, if you were looking for something that more fully encompasses women's role in South Korea. I think you could have put something like, what's that one called? Please Look After Mother. I read that a while ago. That also has a lot to do with the depiction of Korean family life in literature. So like, I feel like that The Vegetarian is popular right now. The Vegetarian is trendy right now, and that's why it was chosen for this list. But I think if you were well-read critics, you would have read a lot of other South Korean literature that would have been better than that. Number 84 is The Talented Mr. Ripley. I own this one, and I definitely want to read it for sure. And I think this is probably a really good one to have on here because it is a genre fiction, and it is a front-running genre fiction of psychological, sociological, obsession, mystery kind of work, which is cool. A Farewell to Arms by Hemingway. I have not read. I'm interested in reading all Hemingway, but that one is far down on the list. The End of the Affair by Graham Greene, which is number 82. I'm definitely interested in reading because I love Graham Greene and I think all of his work is amazing. I haven't read this one, so I don't know, but I don't know why they would put this one on here and not some of his other works. Buddenbrooks, number 81, is a book that I've never heard of. This is by Thomas Mann. Oh, that's why. Okay, no, not interested in that. Number 80 is Rebecca, so I have read that one. And again, I think that's kind of genre fiction, which is interesting to be on here, but also I do think it is an exceedingly compelling novel, work of literature, so I can definitely see why that's on here. So out of 100 to 80, I have read 3, and on my TBR, I have 8. Now, getting to the 70s. 79 is Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. I own that book. I will definitely be reading it. Number 78 is a House for Mr. Biwas. This is by V.S. Nepal. I've read other V.S. Nepal, and I think it's interesting that this is the one they chose because Miguel Street is his most well-known work. I don't own this, but I would definitely like to read this one. The Rainbow by somebody Lawrence. I don't know what that one is. Dracula by Bram Stoker, I have read. And of course I can see why that's on this list. Do I think it's one of the greatest pieces of literature that's ever written? Probably not, but I do think it's one of the most influential pieces of literature that's ever written, which is why I think you have to clarify what this list is actually doing. The Bluest Eye, I have also read. This is the first Toni Morrison book in publication order. This is her debut novel. I don't think this is the best Toni Morrison, and I think there are a lot of Toni Morrisons on this list. I mean, this is a great book. As far as great literature, this is just not her best, so should it be on this list? I don't know. Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Dangarumba is one that I am definitely interested in. It's number 74 on this list, and I always keep my eye out for it. Austerlitz is number 73 by W.G. Siebold, and I don't know that author's work really at all, so I guess I would be interested in reading this, but I don't own it, and I don't think I own any of his, or maybe I own one. Our Mutual Friend by Charles Dickens is number 73. I don't know anything about that book. I'm really not interested in Dickens at all, but I am surprised that that's the one that's on here. Maybe there are more later. Kindred I own, but I have not read. I can see why that one's on here. It is genre fiction, but it does also feel like just having to put an Octavia Butler on here because she's amazing and not necessarily because it's the greatest work of literature. Jude the Obscure is by Thomas Hardy, I believe. I'm not really interested in Thomas Hardy at all, but I'm not going to put it on my, I'll never read this list. Not that I would never read any of these. Number 69 is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I doubt I will ever get to this, but I'm not going to put it on my list because I am a little bit interested in that. And then we have Blood Meridian for number 68 by Cormac McCarthy. So it's weird that we have two Cormac McCarthys on here. Again, I feel like for post-apocalyptic literature, you could have picked any country. You could have picked anywhere. You could have picked any book from any country in the entire world. I don't necessarily think there need to be two Cormac McCarthys on here. Although I've never read him, so maybe he is that amazing. The Man Without Qualities is number 67. I don't know who that's by. It's by Robert Musil. I have no idea what that is. The Master and Margarita I have read. It's a little over my head, I guess, so I don't know if it really deserves to be on here, but I do enjoy it and I do identify with it in ways, so I'm glad it's on here, I guess. Number 65 is The Color Purple, and there's definitely a huge lack of joyful books on here. Not that The Color Purple is joyful, but also queer books on here. So it's really good that this is on here. I also think this is an amazing novel. I also think this is an amazing work of literature. I also love that it's epistolary. We've also had Dracula, which is an epistolary novel, so it's good to have some different things on here. So I definitely agree with that one. Number 64 is The Good Soldier by Ford Madox Ford. I've never read any of that author, and I don't think I'm really interested in it, but not enough to say, like, I'm not going to read it. White Teeth by Zadie Smith is one of those books that I'm really not interested in. I have one Zadie Smith, but I don't know. There's something about, maybe it's just the length of her books that's not appealing to me. Number 62 is Half a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I have read one or two of her books or short stories, and I have some on my TBR, but not that one. But she is a TERF, so I think that is worth noting. The Rings of Saturn by W.G. Siebold, we spotted him again, is, I believe, science fiction. I mean, it's called The Rings of Saturn, so genre fiction, interesting. I might have this one on my TBR. I'm not totally sure. Number 60 is Howard's End by Ian Forster, coming to the last of the next 20. And I have read this one. And I think this one is interesting, but it's very British. So I don't know if it really makes sense to be the greatest literature of all time. But I did enjoy it, and I do like Ian Forster's writing. And that brings us to the next 20. So out of the next 20, from 79 to 60, I have read 5 out of those 20. And I had quite a few on my TBR. Number 59 is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I have read this one fairly recently. Another genre fiction, but very soft sci-fi. This one's a tough one because maybe it does deserve to be on this list for its themes, but because its themes are so common now, because its themes have been so done since this book was written, it doesn't feel revolutionary. It doesn't feel groundbreaking to me, especially as someone who reads sci-fi fairly regularly and read sci-fi my whole life. Is it the best example of this genre, this trope? Is it the best example of this look at society from a sci-fi lens? I don't think so. Number 58 is Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. This one I will never read. Never say never, but it has a lot of animal violence in it, so I won't be reading that. Now, people say it's an absolutely stunning novel, so maybe it deserves to be on here, but I don't know. Number 57 is The Sound and the Fury by Faulkner. I doubt I will read this. There are a couple of Faulkners that I'm interested in, but probably not that one. Mansfield Park is number 56. Who wrote this? Jane Austen. So this is the first of our Jane Austen above the 50s. Very interesting. I'm not a big Jane Austen lad, you know? I'm not a big Jane Austen guy. I don't think I'm going to be reading any Jane Austen. I'm not going to say never, but I'm going to say probably not. And then for number 55, we have our next Virginia Woolf, The Waves. That's too many Virginia Woolfs. Like, there should not have been that many. I mean, she might be a brilliant, amazing, fantastic, incredible, but that's too many. The next Virginia Woolf at 54, which is Orlando. Now, Orlando being a queer story, I think probably should have been on here, and I do hear that it's amazing. I'm definitely interested in that. I don't have it on my TBR. The Transit of Venus, by Shirley Hazard. I don't know what that is. The cover looks interesting. It sounds interesting, so I think I would check that one out for sure. That is number 53. Number 52 is The Golden Bowl by Henry James. I'm not interested in Henry James for the most part. My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante is number 51. I personally am not interested in this, but I can see why it made this list, and I think as far as epic family stories go, that this is probably valid to be on the list. Although I think it should have probably been the entire quartet, because I think that's kind of one long story, even though it's actually 4 novels. Number 50 is Wide Sargasso Sea, which I have read. This is by Jean Reese. And I enjoyed this. I know a lot of people don't enjoy this, but because it is a retelling, reimagining of the origin story of a character in Jane Eyre, I think that's why people like it, but I don't think necessarily as a novel it stands on its own per se. A Fine Balance by Rowington Mystery is a renowned, very loved Indian novel, and I think that this is also an epic story. I think this is also an epic family tale, so I could see why this would be on the list at number 49. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka is at number 48. I really disliked The Metamorphosis, and the more that I think about it, and the further I get from actually reading it, the more I actually think it's kind of brilliant. I think I was very off-put by how cruel it is and by how much animal violence there is in it, which is not something that people talk about, but I do think that this probably deserves to be on the list because of the impact that Kafka has had on writing. I don't know if this is his greatest work because this is the only work by him I've read, but I can see why it would be on here. At number 47, we have Vanity Fair, which is by William Markplace Treachery. I've definitely seen an adaptation of this, but I've never read it, and it's one of those classics that I'm just not really interested in. At number 46, The Leopard, which is by Giuseppe di Lampezupa. I think this is kind of precursor to, like, what are some of those spiritual books? But I'm not sure. I have to look this one up. Does it deserve to be at 46? I don't know. The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing is at number 45, which is really interesting. I don't know this one. This is not the book of hers I'm the most familiar with, so I can't speak to it, but I am interested in it. Giovanni's Room I own, but I haven't read yet. I definitely can see why this is on here, even though I haven't read it, and it totally makes sense. And it is queer work, so I'm glad about that. The Magic Mountain is another Thomas Mann. Do we really need all these Thomas Manns? Even if he's brilliant, I feel like if they had limited the amount that each author could be on here, it would have made room for a more well-rounded list. Number 41 is The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I do have this on my TBR, I believe. I do own a copy of this, I believe. Semi-interested in it. The Song of Solomon is number 40, and I have read that. This is another Toni Morrison, and this is another one that I don't necessarily think should be on here. Did I love this book? Yes. And does it have a lot of interesting themes? Yes. But I just don't know. I think it's really hard to pick, besides the standout one of Toni Morrison's work. But if I were going to put another one on the list, I would have put Sula. So that's 59 to 40, and I have read only 3 out of those, and quite a few on my TBR, and quite a few interested in. Several have gone on my will not read. Number 39 is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Amazing. Yes, I think this should be on here. If for nothing else, then obviously the Black experience in America in the South at the time of the setting of the book, but also for the language that is used. Then we have our first Edith Wharton, first and possibly only, The Age of Innocence. I definitely believe Edith Wharton should be on here, but should it have been this one? I don't know. I haven't read enough of her work, but I do really like The Age of Innocence, and I do really like Edith Wharton, and I can't imagine she's not up there with Jane Austen and authors of that ilk. Invisible Man by Ellison, I do have, but I have not read yet. The Handmaid's Tale is one that I'm not interested in. It might be incredible. It might deserve to be on this list, but I doubt I will ever read it. Great Expectations by Dickens. Now, I've kind of started reading this before, but it's not currently on my TBR. I don't think Dickens is for me. We're really getting into the nitty-gritty now. Wolf Hall at number 34 by Hilary Mantel. This is one that I will never read, but does it deserve to be on this list? Maybe. David Copperfield, another Dickens. 3 Dickens. We could have definitely skipped that first one, I think. Number 32 is The God of Small Things by Aaron Dottie Roy. This is another one that is supposed to be amazing. It's supposed to be incredible. I'm interested in it, but not enough to put it on the interested list. The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. This is how you can tell this is an English-based list, a British-based list, because Americans have no idea what this book is. I'm positive. I'm interested in that book. It's not on my TBR. I do have other Muriel Sparks on my TBR. Number 30 is Frankenstein. I have read this. This is not technically an epistolary novel, but it's similar to the epistolary novels because it's like a story within a story. Someone's telling a story about a different story. I think that this deserves to be on the list. I do. I think this is a great example of genre fiction. This is a great example of sci-fi. This is a really fascinating story that has been exceedingly influential in all of literature since its creation. Vladimir Nabokov, Pale Fire. I don't have this one, but I like Nabokov. I'm sure Lolita's on this list somewhere. Actually, I see it already. And I don't think that Pale Fire deserves to be on this list because I think that there's one Nabokov book that should be on this list, and it is on this list. The Brothers Karamazov is one that I will never read. Pause. Story. I had an ex who read this over like 4 years, and he forced himself to read it, and he kind of hated every minute, and he kind of loved every minute, and he wouldn't read anything else, and that's really the reason that I won't read it. Not because he didn't end up liking it, not because it wasn't good, not because it's not a great novel potentially, but the torture that he put himself through to get through this book, and the discomfort and dislike, and like, I guess the martyrdom that he had of reading this to the exception of everything else, never reading anything else that was fun or enjoyable or whatever. Like, maybe he was a better person for having read this, but seeing someone go through that is the reason why I will not read this. That comes in at number 28. Number 27 is The Trial by Kafka. I will definitely read this. It is on my TBR. Don Quixote is number 26 by Miguel de Cervantes. I've never read this. I don't think I will read this. I've heard some interesting stories about the two halves of this book, and it probably does deserve to be on this list, but I'm not interested in it. Number 25 is Lolita. by Nabokov, which I have read, and even though the subject matter is exceedingly difficult to read, even though it's very uncomfortable, even though it is icky, I love this book, and I think it is a brilliant book, and I do think it deserves to be on this list. Number 24 is our next Kazuo Ishiguro, The Remains of the Day, and this is on my TBR, and I definitely will be reading this at some point. Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie is one that I will not be reading, just because I don't think I'm interested in Salman Rushdie, even though I'm sure he's a brilliant author and probably does deserve to be on this list. Things Fall Apart is our first, I think, African classic, and I don't know if it deserves to be on this list, but it is touted as the most famous, the most recognizable, the most read, the most loved African classic. Maybe it is, and maybe it deserves to be on this list. It is on my TBR. I will read it eventually, so I will eventually find out. That was number 22. Number 21 is Portrait of a Lady. This is Thomas Hardy again. No, this is Henry James again. I don't plan on reading it. Wuthering Heights is number 20 by Emily Bronte. Bronte is the other authors that I was trying to think of, the Bronte sisters. I'm not a Jane Austen person. I'm not a Bronte person. I'm probably never going to read Wuthering Heights. I honestly don't care about Wuthering Heights. Definitely some Jane Austens and some Brontes should be on this list because they're very, very influential. So out of 39 to 20, I have read 4, a lot on the TBR. The Life and Opinions of Tristan Shandy Gentleman by Lawrence Stern is number 19. I've never heard of that book. I've probably heard of it. I've probably heard of all these books, but I'm not familiar with that book. Something that looks that old, could it be something that I'd be interested in? Maybe. Am I interested in it? No. Does it deserve to be at number 19? I can't imagine that it does. Number 18 is Persuasion by Jane Austen. Never gonna read it. Number 17 is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I think that probably a Gabriel Garcia Marquez deserves to be on this list because he is so influential. I don't think I'm ever gonna read 100 Years of Solitude. 1984 is number 16. This is on my TBR. I do own a copy of this. I'm not running out to read this. This is, of course, by George Orwell. Does it deserve to be on this list? Probably. Will I eventually read it? Probably. Now we're at number 15, Moby Dick. It is technically on my TBR, another one that I'm not rushing out to read. Probably, as far as influential novel goes, yes, this should be on the list. Mrs. Dalloway, I have read recently, this year, at the end of last year, and I didn't understand it 100%, but I do understand why it was so influential, and I do think that having a modernist novel on here, maybe there's more than one, is important because, again, I think writing style, similar to like the Kafka of it all, needs to be thought of when you're making a list like this. And influential books are sometimes influential because of their subject matter. Sometimes, as we can tell, they're influential because of their authors, but also sometimes they're influential because of their uniqueness or their difference from other books. Emma by Jane Austen is number 13. I'm not going to read this. Bleak House by Charles Dickens, again with the Dickens, number 12. Never going to read that. The Great Gatsby I have read and I do love, and I do think that this should definitely be on the list. Should it be number 11? I'm not sure. I mean, this is one of my all-time favorite books, and again, I think it's almost more important because of its brevity, because of its shortness, because of the American tale that it's telling. I do love The Great Gatsby. Madame Bovary, another Flaubert at number 10. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. People love this one. Jane Eyre at number 8. Another Bronte. Jane Eyre is one that I could potentially read because I know the story and because I read The Wide Sargasso Sea. So I would kind of like to learn more about that character in the actual book, but probably not going to read it. Number 7, War and Peace. I won't say I'll never read War and Peace, but it's highly unlikely. This book by Leo Tolstoy should be on this list. Anna Karenina is number 6, also by Tolstoy. People sometimes like one above the other. Should Anna Karenina be on here? I mean, it is so influential. Maybe. Will I ever read it? No. In Search of Lost Time, which is the Proust set of like 7 books or something. Nobody's read this. Is it super influential? I guess. But like, should it be number 5 on this list? I don't know. Never gonna read it. To the Lighthouse, another Virginia Woolf. I don't think that there should be so many Virginia Woolfs on here. There are other amazing American writers. There are other amazing women writers that should be on here. Top 3, Ulysses by James Joyce. This is another modernist novel, right? So should this be on here? I don't know. I haven't read this one. I am interested. I do believe this is on my TBR. Actually, To the Lighthouse I think is too. Then Beloved. Yes, 100%. I read this for the first time this year. I read it twice. I had to read it again immediately. This is an amazing novel. This is amazing literature. This is incredibly influential. This is, I mean, just on a sentence-to-sentence level, Toni Morrison is so captivating, so amazing, so good that she needs to be on this list, and Beloved is the one. But I think if I had to pick one other Toni Morrison, I would pick Sula. And then, number 1, Middlemarch. Middlemarch is by George Eliot, and I have never read this one. I will not say I will never read this. This is very long. I think this is a epic story, and I think this is a story about like a whole town and how the whole town comes together. Does it deserve to be number 1? I would have picked something else, I think. People love Middlemarch. This is a very British take, I think. This is a very English take. I think if you asked Americans, Middlemarch would not be the book that was the first book. Interesting list. Out of the 19 to 1, I only read 3 books. They are 3 pretty incredible books. And there's quite a few on my TBR. I put several on my won't read list. So let's see. Out of the 100, I have read 18. Not a huge amount. I think the 2 Aarons read like between 40 and 50 books off this list, but they do read a lot of classics and they do read a lot of big classics, and I don't. So, you know, definitely I don't think I'll ever beat people who read classics because this list is so focused on classics. Out of the 100, I own 21. So 21 are on my owned TBR, and then 13 I isolated as ones that I will not read. I don't want to read, I'm not interested in. And then I made a little list of ones that I am interested in or ones that I should look up, right? One thing that I thought was really interesting about both the Aaron's list is they mentioned books that they thought should be on this list that weren't. Aaron read a book, or Aaron read a book, said The Lord of the Rings. I semi-agree with that. And then Aaron Facer said his top one, I think, was Les Miserables, although he had quite a few that he thought should be on this list, so I definitely would check out his channel. I will leave links to both the videos down below. Definitely watch both their videos. They were fantastic and inspirational. I would say not Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit should be on this list. I will fight this one. I will always fight this one. I think The Hobbit is better than Lord of the Rings. Now, have I read Lord of the Rings as much as I've read The Hobbit? No, but I think The Hobbit is more accessible. It's more amazing and adventurous and wonderful and fantastic. I think it doesn't get so drawn out. I think it follows a lot of the same themes with a less like obvious good versus evil kind of thing. I think it has amazing characters. I think it is contained and easy to read. I know it gets points off a lot of times for being like a children's book, but I don't think it is. I think it's a perfectly fine novel to read as an adult, and I think it's better than Lord of the Rings. So yes, I think The Hobbit should be on here. Aaron read a book, or Aaron read a book, also made an interesting point about Agatha Christie. There was no Agatha Christie. So on my list, I would put The Hobbit, I would put Agatha Christie. And if I had to pick an Agatha Christie, I would pick The Body in the Library. Is that what it's called? The second in the Miss Marple series, because I think Miss Marple is Agatha Christie's best work. I think that book encapsulates her writing just generally. It's funny, it's silly, it's topical, it is upstairs, downstairs a little bit, like it's everything, and her writing is just so amazing. I would 100% put that on there as well. There's no Slaughterhouse-Five. How could Slaughterhouse-Five not be on this list? How is that possible? 100% Slaughterhouse-Five should be on this list. There's no Fahrenheit 451. 100% Fahrenheit 451 should be on this list. If you're putting 1984 on this list, Fahrenheit 54 should be on this list. That is such a great novel, such a great book. Obviously very influential, obviously very important then and now. And I also think that like classics being on here is fine, but I think you do need genre fiction on lists like this because genre fiction is so incredibly influential in literature. I would have put The Quiet American instead of The End of the Affair by Graham Greene. I think Ender's Game or Starship Troopers should have been on this list or could be on this list. I'm putting a lot of anti-war books, but I do think books like that are important. Why isn't All Quiet on the Western Front on this? I haven't read All Quiet on the Western Front, but it seems like one that should be on this. Maybe I'll read it this month. I think anti-war books, not just because of the time we're living in where there are multiple wars happening, where especially in America we're funding wars. I think those books are influential and I think they say something about society that like could be relevant to this list. But again, I guess it all really depends on like, what is this list for? Like, what's the definition of this list? And the main thing is that we don't know because they didn't really give us a definition. They didn't really tell us. I'm sure there are other ones. I mean, my personal list obviously would have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on it. I think I've read quite a few books that are translated, that are from different countries than either the British Isles or America that should be on this list. Ooh, I haven't read this book, but I think The House of the Spirits should be on this list by Isabella Allende. I think if you're doing family epics, that's a huge one. Maybe Pachinko by Min Jin Lee should be on this. I haven't read that book either, but I feel like there are enough family epics on this list that are white Western that aren't necessarily better than those two books. I don't know. Well, that's not a genre that I like, so I probably will never know. I just think that there's probably better books than some of the ones that they've chosen. So maybe substitute out some of those. Again, this is a list done by authors, done by critics, done by readers, done by whoever. I'm sure that one of the reasons that they have you say what you've read and what you haven't is to pick a reader's list. You know what I would like to see actually? The booktube 100 lists. I would like to see a list done from different countries. I would love to see like an African version, an Australian version, a South American version, maybe one from every continent, and a Southeast Asian version of this list I'd like to see. But I think doing a booktube one would be pretty cool too. So let me know how many of these books you've read. Let me know what your thoughts on this list. Let me know if you agree or disagree on some of these books. Let me know if you agree or disagree on some of the books that I would add. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!